what this panel will be about is a proposed framework for working.
Am I audible?
Great, they can be heard. Was that audio from the panel? Okay, fantastic.
Yes. Are we audible?
You are indeed. Fantastic. So we're good to go. Okay, so I won't take up any more time. This framework is not, it's carefully worded to be working towards equity in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I don't think this is something that we can reasonably hope to achieve in a lifetime. I don't think we can hope to achieve equity in any of our lifetimes. I don't know how long you're going to live. I have an idea of how long I'm going to live. But we can work towards it, and that's what this framework is for. So if we can go to the next slide, please. We will have, I think the next slide is a picture of introduces each of our panelists. Can we advance there we go. Okay, so I'm Raja Guhatakurta. I'm a professor of astronomy and astrophysics. I've had the misfortune of being department chair for the last 3.5 years. I'm counting the number of hours before I can stop using that title. And I've had the great fortune of working with Heather, Knowledge, Vishaka, and many other wonderful individuals over the last few years. Heather, please take it away. You're going to introduce yourself next.
Aloha mai kako. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
My name is Heather Kaluna. I'm an assistant professor of astronomy here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. And we'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Heather. Knowledge, you're on.
Hello everyone. I am Knowledge Chikundi, director of the Africa Science Basket Festival based in Harare, Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Vishaka. Thanks, Knowledge.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, as it is India. We are in India here. So I am Vishaka, and I'm the founder of Gurukul Academy, and I work with a lot of underprivileged and tribal children here in India. Thank you.
I asked Vishaka at one point whether cool should be spelled K-U-L. She said, no, all the mentors are very cool, so that's why it's K-O-O-L. So I have to explain that. Next slide, please. I think, Heather, you're going to do a chant next, is that right?
Correct.
Thank you. If you could go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Heather, you're on.
All right. So I just wanted to start this panel with an oli, or a chant, that is commonly used here in the islands in Hawaii at the start of an event or a small gathering. It really helps to focus the group's energy, and it's asking for aid and seeking knowledge. And so if you happen to know this chant by any chance, please join me. The chant before I get started is composed by Kumuhula Edith Kanaka Ole. I just wanted to give that credit before we get going here. All right. E ho mai kaike mai luna mai e o na mea huna no iao no na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai kaike mai luna mai e o na mea huna no iao no na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai kaike mai luna mai e o na mea huna no iao no na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai. Mahalo.
Hello, that was beautiful. Mahalo. You're speaking to a group, and you're speaking in a land where chants are not at all unusual or alien things. So thank you for starting us off with that. If we can go to the next slide, please, Pankaj. What we have next is Vishaka speaking about Gurukul Academy. Take it away, please, Vishaka.
Thank you so much, sir. So, hello once again to all of you. And I'm here, Vishaka, founder of Gurukul Academy. Gurukul, as the name suggests, we are gurus who are very cool. So in the ancient times, when the gurus, they taught discipline, values, among the other learnings, we are here trying to update ourselves and trying to stay cool with the current generation. So we work largely, we are an education platform, and we work in fostering creativity in science to a large number of youngsters here in India. And though I work a lot with underprivileged and tribal children, I also observed that during my interaction with a lot of college people here, I got to know that they also want to learn through interaction with professors. So here I started a series that was Scientific Saturday Lecture Series, that is Science for All. And I invited eminent professors from all across the world to come here and give a lecture on our platform. We had this thing live on a Facebook and YouTube channel of around 300 million people. It is a channel of 300 million people. So, I'm sorry, 3 million people. So they joined us here in the live session, and we conducted a lecture on a particular topic. And thereafter, they were able to ask questions in the live session, and there were many questions which we were not able to take up during that particular time. So we emailed the professor, and they used to send us the answer, and we sent it respectively back to the people who asked it. So it was a very nice series where the college students, we also brought them the opportunity to connect with these professors and know that what exactly, where they are, what they are doing currently, and what opportunities they have in future. So it was a very nice one. And here you can see a list of speakers that we had. There were many more, but I was able to, have this in one slide. So can we move on to the next?
Before we do, I just wanted to say I'm proud to be good friends with Mansi and Shomak for many years. And just a quick word about Professor Jocelyn Bell. Her thesis advisor, Tony Hewish, and she were the first to discover spinning neutron stars, predicted by folks like Chandrasekhar. They were the first to discover them, and they found these radio signals that were beeping at us at very regular intervals. The first interpretation was LGM, Little Green Men, extraterrestrials, but turns out they were spinning neutron stars. But the sad story of this is Tony Hewish got the Nobel Prize, and Jocelyn Bell, the graduate student, was ignored in that Nobel Prize citation. She's received every award you can imagine since then, but this is actually a tale of discrimination and bias that can never be really rectified. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Take it away, Vishaka.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. So we also do a lot of citizen science project, not just with the privileged group, but we take it forward to a lot of underprivileged children. And here I want to tell you a story about how we brought science, global science, to the grassroots level people. So here, this picture, this is a school. It is a government high school in Karatikuri village, Tamil Nadu. So one day I got a call from the teacher, Pauli ma'am, and she said that they heard about us during the lecture series, and they wanted to participate in our asteroid search campaign and how that can happen. So of course, when we have such kind of citizen science projects, it is many of us know here that we need laptops or a desktop to to conduct the sessions, and if you don't have it, it is a little difficult. I mean, on the phones you can't do that. So then she said that, we have the system in our schools, and we can bring children in our school, and then we can conduct the session. So, and here what I found, the story is that the children here, they were not comfortable in the language Hindi or English, which we largely speak here. And they were like in the local language, and they did not know how to operate, how to, sit on a Zoom call, or, how to share the screen when we are telling them something. They did not even know this. I mean, this is just roughly 6 months ago. So we had to teach them. That is somewhere, I've been born and brought up in the East. I come from Bihar. I am working largely in the North here. And my education has been from Maharashtra. And then I never worked with, somewhere in the South. So here we were able to work with the South people, and the local language, the barrier, we were able to diminish that and take this forward to the students. We conducted the session, and they discovered asteroids. In the next slide, please. I want to give you the scene. Yes. So this discovered 2 asteroids here, and we had the certificates for them. And they were so happy. They were so happy about it, discovering this, that the teacher called me and she said that, this children, they don't know English, but they have recorded something for you. And so I have, if I can please have that video played over here, when the student, they learned English specially for that. And they conveyed their thanks. So can I have that video played?
I don't know
here?
if we can play the video right now, but we can certainly play it at the end of the session, at the end of the
For
presentation.
sure.
Let's do that.
So,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that is something, and I feel privileged to work with all these people, that at least, these students, I was able to bring them these opportunities here. So that is how, that is how I'm connected with people, and I'm conducting all these sessions also. Can we have I think the next slide, please. Okay. Yes. So here, this is the Sally Ride campaign, in which, students, they are able to click pictures from the space, from a space-based camera, and they're able to click pictures of Earth from there, different parts of the region. So here are some pictures, and they did that as well too. And because I wanted to say this, because I work a lot with the tribal children, the problem of connectivity, the internet connectivity, and the device is always there. But when they get to, when they get a platform like this, they are encouraged so much. They at least think that, they can pursue their dreams, and we help them in dreaming big. So that is all that I have to say. It was a very nice experience, here at Gurukul, and taking this forward to, taking this to a lot of children here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishaka. I'm sorry that Vishaka's audio would cut out, but fortunately the gaps were very small. Literally and figuratively, the children were on top of the world here, and that's the beauty of what Vishaka has brought to them. I think we have, if we can go to the next slide, please. I think we have Knowledge speaking about the Africa Science Buskers Festival next. A busker is someone who sits by the side of the road, plays music to collect money. Here, it's scientists sitting by the side of the road, peddling their science instead of their music. So that's the beauty of the Africa Science Buskers Festival. Knowledge, take it away, please.
Thank you, Raja. Hello, everyone, once again. So it's my pleasure to share with you the work we do with children in primary and high schools in Africa. So this work started in 2013. So we started with 2 schools only, and we knew we were starting a marathon because in schools, students were not having the opportunity to do research or to showcase their science communication talents. So we started with a program where we would visit schools and do hands-on activities. But we knew the schools didn't have, most of the schools, public schools, didn't have labs. Right? So we would design our activities based on things that they could find in the supermarkets or materials they can find in homes. So the program grew very fast, And by 2015, we had the Zimbabwe Science Fair. And then around 2016, we started visiting schools with a program we called Science Seekers Africa. So basically, we would have the children gather in a hall, or if they don't have a big hall, they would be under a big tree. And then we do these demonstrations. So using everyday materials to show that you don't need expensive equipment to do extraordinary science. So the program was so successful because so we did these activities or these exhibitions in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in Zambia. And for the first time, I got a letter from a student saying, I want to be like you. And it really meant a lot. Now seeing these children saying, oh, they want to be like us. They want to communicate science like us. So we thought, oh, let's create a platform for them to perform science. Of course, we had the Zimbabwe Science Fair, but for the Science Fair now, they have to do to stick to the scientific method or the engineering design process. So we thought, let's create something that's simpler, something that's more fun. And that's how we created this Africa Science Baskers Festival. And it has grown so big. Like this year we had entries, we had projects, 1,300 projects. That's a 60% increase from last year's edition. And or these projects are coming from 13 countries. And we are seeing even the quality of work being done by the students is amazing. And we're seeing big people coming over to support us. Like this year we had 3 Nobel laureates in the sciences coming to congratulate the finalists of the Africa Science Baskers Festival. Next slide, please. Yeah, so having this Science Baskers Festival, which is a platform for students to showcase what they can do in science, their science communication talent, their innovation, their research and innovation skills, has opened so many doors for the students. And I think that's in the right direction to ensure students from all backgrounds have the opportunity to be on big international stages. So here in this slide, you are seeing the this USAID post. So they give these special awards to top young scientists who are working on solutions solving the grand challenges. So this year, so 3 of our students won this so first place award. So that was $5,000 US dollars cash award in the USA in the world's biggest science competition called the Regeneron ICEF. So we are seeing our students now. So some of them from very humble backgrounds. So for example, one of our students, so he comes from a very humble background, and through our work last year, he ended up participating in this Regeneron ICEF, and he got a scholarship to go to Arizona State University. And so his life changed. And so before he left the country, he started volunteering in an orphanage, inspiring the kids there to participate in the Science Baskers Festival. And this year, from that orphanage, we had 15 projects from that orphanage. So kids from that 15 projects, and 9 of them made it into the finalists, and they actually won some of the big awards in our festival. Next slide.
Just to say that ISEF stands for International Science and Engineering Fair. It's a highly reputable competition.
Yeah, and because of the work being done by these students, so because we are giving them this opportunity, and they are now, we can see the talent that's been hidden. So this year, we are part of the group that's being followed by the National Geographic So they are working on a documentary called Science Fair, which should be on the screens very soon. So they followed our young scientists when we went to the US in May, and the whole crew flew here in Harare. So they spent 1 week following these students and filming the Africa Science Baskets Festival. So in the screens very soon, on the screens, you will see our young scientists and part of our work being streamed as part of the documentary. And one of the students, so if you can see, I took this where you see where it says Future Forward, the Science Fair series. If you can see the students, those girls in blue, so one of the girls is in grade 10. So last year when Professor Raja gave a presentation, also that's last year but one, when he gave a presentation in our Science Baskets Festival, so he mentioned about one of the programs they do called the SIP program. And so this girl and a friend, they said, oh, we can try this. Let's apply and see how it goes. So they applied and they made it. They were the first Africans to be interns with the University of California, Santa Cruz in the SIP program. And so next slide, please. And so they for 10 weeks, they were working with
Pankaj,
researchers.
Can we move the banner to the top, the speaker banner to the top, just to see the girls? Thank you. Sorry about that, Knowledge.
It's okay. So, so for 10 weeks, they were working with researchers in the SIP program. And it really, really transformed them because during that program, they were so inspired to want to start an organization that will expose children here in Zimbabwe and the other African countries in astronomy. So after the program, they launched a company. So they are now running an organization, grade 10 kids. And last slide. And so one of the programs that followed after their participation in the SIP program is the Shadow the Scientist sessions. So we work with Professor Raja, and so that these students will join astronomers as they receive data live from the stars. So I had to, because in the interest of time, I had to run fast in the slides. But thank you so much for the opportunity to present on the work we are doing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Knowledge. And last but not the least, Heather, the floor is yours. Next slide, please.
All right, aloha. So thank you all for having me here and really allowing me to be a part of this conversation. I think the idea of promoting equity within STEAM is an important one. And so a lot of the programs that we've heard about from like Vishaka and Knowledge, and perhaps many of the programs that you folks are working with, are trying to encourage students to pursue these careers in STEM. But we do have a problem within STEM where the diversity is a bit lacking. And so we want to make sure that we are pushing our students into a field and into an area where they'll be welcome, where they feel like they belong. And so I feel like I've started to do a bit of this work through my interactions with my students here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. And so to talk about how this process, or how I'm implementing this process in my experience, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey as one of two Native Hawaiians who have who are astronomers or have a PhD in astronomy. I'm very keenly aware of how astronomy is not necessarily presented or taught in a way that is that highlights things that I might normally be familiar with. And so this question of, how does my cultural identity and my scientific identity come together? And so when I talk about this concept of fostering a culture of inclusion, for me, it's really trying to build an environment where we can actually combine this cultural identity with that scientific identity to strengthen one's ability to do science and to do it in an innovative way. Next slide, please.
Heather,
so I went through my traditional education, here in Hawaii, my entire education, my undergraduate, my master's and my PhD were done here in Hawaii. But that entire time, never once did I feel like I was learning astronomy in Hawaii. You know, in my classrooms, most of all of my teachers, none of them were from here, right? So none of them were familiar with the culture. None of them were familiar with the experiences that we have here in Hawaii. And so, you know, I very much love astronomy and very much value the experience I learned while pursuing my PhD. But it wasn't until someone asked me in an interview of what does it mean to be an astronomer and what does it mean to be Hawaiian, and did I really start to think about how those two identities overlap. And so I realized that, you know, oftentimes when we, you know, teach them to students, it's rare that we give students an opportunity to reflect upon their own cultural identities and their own experiences and bring that into the research and into the science that they're doing. And so even though I've gotten my PhD, which was of course a very exciting moment, I definitely am continuing my education right now under the leadership of Taupori Tangoro. He has done an amazing transformation of the experiences that faculty and staff can do in terms of helping to transform the University of Hawaii at Hilo and Hawaii Community College into Indigenous serving institutions. And so some of the programs, you know, where I'm really starting to transform myself and helping to, one, just build up my own knowledge and build up my own skill set so that I can actually help support students in their own journeys, is by participating in these professional development workshops. So Uluakea is a series of workshops where we learn traditional practices, things like cloth dyeing. So here in that bottom set of pictures, we're actually using olena, which is the Hawaiian word for turmeric, as a dye for these cloths that you see hanging up. And these cloths are traditional garb for ceremonies. And so, you know, we learn these practices, we understand the relationship between the things that we do and its connection to the land. When we start to do things in terms of building up our experiences and taking the knowledge, or taking the things that we're creating in these workshops, we can apply them in what we call the Kipaipai Committee. And so this is a welcoming ceremony committee that essentially brings faculty, staff, and students together. And we do traditional chants, similar to what I did when we opened the panel. We use drums, we dance hula as a way to welcome different groups to our campus, as a way to open different ceremonies, such as our graduation ceremony. And so it's through this process that I think we really are starting to create an opportunity for students to see faculty, not only as scientists, but also as cultural practitioners. And so you start to see these two identities overlap. Next slide, please.
Heather, your turmeric, or haldi here, is a very, very commonly used spice. In fact, I'm looking at the color of all the upholstery here.
Yeah.
It actually matches the cloth in your picture. Go ahead, please.
And so really getting at this idea of, you know, aside from, you know, learning these specific skill sets and applying them to different situations, also learning how to build relationship with place. And so that's an important part of this transformation process, I have found. Despite being born and raised here on the island of Hawaii, which is also known as the Big Island, and is oftentimes bigger than people expect. So when they come here, they're often surprised that despite it being an island, it can take quite a while to get around. And so, you know, being born and raised here, I haven't been to, you know, every place on the island. And the places I have visited, you know, I have little context or perhaps little historical or even traditional knowledge of that area. And so we have trips here that are hosted as a part of, you know, the same group that leads the Uluakea series, as well as the Kipaipai committees. And they take us to places called Wahipana, which are sacred sites. And so what you're seeing on the left is a picture of Mauna Kea. And then on the right in that bottom picture, that's a picture of Waipio Valley. And so These are very special places in Hawaii, and trying to understand the stories that are associated with that place can really start to connect you and give you a sense of place and really introduce you to the concepts of the people that were from this area, right? That definitely grew and developed with this land. And so as a Native Hawaiian, it's been an extremely valuable experience to have an opportunity in my professional environment to actually be able to learn the skill set that I talked about in the previous slide, but also gain this knowledge and take that so that I can now use this in my curriculum. So can we please move to the next slide? So the first step is really just transforming myself, doing that professional development. But now I need to take that information, take that experience, take that new perspective and bring that to the classroom and create an environment for our students where we can model new ways of pursuing science and new ways of looking at scientific results. And so an example of this is using mo'olelo or ka'au. These are words that describe traditional myths or legends in Hawaii. And so a very common traditional myth here in Hawaii is the story of Maui, who is this demigod, and he famously captured the sun and slowed its passage across the sky. And he did this to help his mother out and allow her cloth that she handmade to dry. And so this idea of him capturing the sun and slowing it down is, of course, this really, beautiful story, but really trying to understand what is the significance of the celestial events and the celestial interpretation in that story. And so when we look at modern scientific observations, we recognize that the length of Earth's day has been increasing over time. And this is a result of the mutual interaction between the Earth and the moon, tidal friction, and the gravitational forces that produce that. And so we're introducing all of these scientific concepts through a traditional myth that is commonly known here in the islands.
And Heather, the length of the day is growing. The day is getting longer at the rate of 2 milliseconds every century. Okay, so
thank you, Raja, for that additional bit of information.
right, and that's difficult to measure, except we have historical records of solar eclipses going back to 2000 BC. And if you make predictions of eclipse times and where on Earth they land, if you don't take this lengthening of the day into account, you predict that they would land in the wrong parts of the Earth compared to where they were actually observed. So there's empirical measurement of the slowing down of the Earth's spin, the lengthening of the day, 2 milliseconds per century.
Mahalo, Raja. Next slide, please. So another module that I use in my classroom is this concept of taking traditional astronomy. Traditionally observing the stars and using that to mark the passage of time. The Makahiki Festival is a famous festival here in Hawaii because that is what marks the Hawaiian New Year. And we know that this happens when the Makali'i, it's the Pleiades star cluster, rises as the sun is setting. And so this particular event, which is significant, it marks a very important time of peace and joy and really just, collaboration between each of the tribes in Hawaii. When we look at this event, we can look at Makali'i a little bit more in detail, right? So when we think about Makali'i, aside from understanding that it's these groups of stars, really using this as a point to transition and introduce students to the concept of star clusters, understanding how do we derive ages, how do we classify stars. And so not only just understanding, how do these things move across our sky, but understanding them in a much deeper way. And again, connecting it to something that, a cultural tradition, an event that is extremely important here in Hawaii.
And Heather, the Pleiades constellation is called Subaru in Japanese. It's supposed to be the harbinger of good luck, not just good cars, but also good luck. And I think in the Indian context, I think it's called Saptarshi, the 7 rishis, the 7 priests, I think is this constant. So it has traditional significance in other parts of the world as well.
Yes, it does. And so it's always fun to bring up like the other names like Subaru and whatnot in class, especially because we have Subaru Observatory here on Mauna Kea. So people have a little more context for that observatory. All right, next slide, please. So that, I mean, that was really just giving you a sense of, what I've done in my particular journey, but really coming back to this idea of, if we're really trying to promote an inclusive environment in STEM, we need to honor the diversity of our students by first making space and building capacity within them so that they actually feel like they belong and that their perspectives are valued, their traditions are valued, and that they actually can strengthen their ability to do science and be a scientist. And so that's it. I just want to say thank you to these individuals for really helping me along my journey to become both a scientist and more knowledgeable about my cultural traditions.
Thank you, Heather. So I feel very fortunate that while Heather was an undergraduate at the Hilo, University of Hawaii Hilo, she came to Santa Cruz for a summer. She was my summer student. That's when our paths first crossed. I also feel very privileged that I get to go to the Big Island and use the telescopes of Mauna Kea. I'm going there in less than a month. I'm going to spend 2 weeks in Hawaii next month. Heather, thank you. That was very meaningful. Thank you very much. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this panel is about a proposed framework, and I was supposed to work on the slide, but after a long day yesterday, I felt like hanging out at the pool instead, at the hotel pool. So I'm going to show you some pictures that combine these two things. So our proposed framework is we first get children to dip their toes in the water and basically interact with scientists and the science process, because before you jump into a pool, you want to feel the temperature of the water, and you want to sense whether the people who are already in the water are having fun and whether you want to join them in it. So that's the first step in this proposed framework. The second one is you want to learn the strokes. So this is Michelle filming me, my weak attempts to do a backstroke. Okay, so this is literally, these photos were taken yesterday afternoon. I'm not joking. That's my foot in the water, that's me in the water. If we can move the banner up, please. The next step in this is you want to swim, but you want some flotation device. So there were these kids hanging out by the pool, and this is their inner tube. Once you get confident, then you can take a deep dive. And the analogy here is really controlled projects, where a scientist has done a research project, they've encountered twists and turns, and they can have a student go through something that they've already done. The advantage of that is you can provide navigational tools to the student to say, there are sharp turns here, and you can control how many navigational instructions you give the student. You can control the degree of difficulty. You know where the difficult points are. And then the final thing is taking a deep dive. The next click, please. And that's again, me in the water, but the pool is only 5 feet deep, so my head isn't smashed into the ground. I'm doing a handstand. Anyway, taking a deep dive is sort of the end of this process where you're working on a problem that hasn't been worked on before. So the mentor and student are encountering failure, learning from failure, because they're solving a problem for the first time. So this is what we see as a proposed framework. There could be many others, for working towards equity in STEAM. That's all we have by way of slides. I think Vishaka has a video she wanted to queue up. Pankaj, if you could please queue up the video that Vishaka sent. But let me open it up to the floor. I'd love to hear comments, abuse, rotten vegetables, anything from the audience. You waited very patiently as we've worked through our technical difficulties, so I deserve your rotten vegetables and broth, so please bring it on. Vishaka has a video to show, so we'll keep you entertained in case there are no rotten vegetables. I don't see any coming. I'm quick. I'm going to duck if you throw something at me. But really, on a more serious note, this is your session as much as it is anyone else's. So please speak up if your work intersects any of these 4 stages. Again, introducing a student to science, so dipping their toes in the water, science and scientists. I think the people are more important than the science. Learning the technical skills, the swim strokes, guided research projects, and open-ended research projects. If any of you do work that intersects with any of these 4 things, or maybe all of these 4 things, please put up your hand, share what you do. That's what we're hoping the rest of the session will be, is hearing from you, not us. How are we doing? Okay, there is a video coming up. This is Vishaka's video, right, Vishaka?
Yes, it is. I don't know why it's like, it's upside down.
Is it upside down? It's all black here. I'll take your word for it that it's upside down because it's all black here.
Oh no, but I can see this.
It's sideways, yeah.
My name is Amshinti. I'm studying 9th standard B section in Government High School, K. Pusarapatti in Krishnagiri district. I'm going to tell few words about my experience in finding asteroids. At first, I came to know about it by my science teacher, Pauline Ronnie ma'am. I got interested in it because I had interest in science. IASD, International Asteroid Search Corporation, is the application where I learned about it. In the term campaign, our team name is Good. My mentor in that campaign was Praksha. She taught us in the application Astrometrica. She taught very well about finding asteroids. By her teaching, I found 5 moving objects. I had a wonderful experience in this class. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to know more about asteroids. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Thank you. Anyone, any brave souls want to speak up? I know it's getting late into the morning. Anyone at all? Please put up your hand if any of the work you do qualifies as the students dipping their toe in the water. Okay, I'm going to put up my hand. The work I do, certainly, our Shadow the Scientist is something like that. Can anyone relate to that? Please. Anyone at all? Do you? Yes, please.
Hi.
Can I give you I'll give you my microphone, please, so that everyone can hear you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Hannah Bautista and I'm from the Engineering and Design Institute in London. So we are a new institution in London that's basically promoting engineering, but in a different way. And I think everyone, thank you so much to the speakers, because I thought that was so wonderful, using the resources that we've got, as well as making space for the identities of everybody. So I think we definitely resonate well with that. So at Teddy London, what we're trying to do is introduce more of a projects-based learning approach, where it's a very more hands-on approach to engineering, where instead of going to traditional lectures as well as having the traditional prerequisites of physics and science, we don't have those. And then our engineering program is very hands-on, where students are going into maker spaces as well as dipping their toes into using the equipments like 3D printers, CAD systems from day one. And what we are hoping to do is change the world through engineering, really, but in a different kind. So I was just saying, thank you so much for this particular session. And I think it also fortifies what we are trying to achieve there. Cheers.
Can I ask a quick question, please? You're working in the UK, in London, right?
Yes, sir.
What does underprivileged look like in the UK? I have a sense of this, but I wanted to hear from you. Is it mostly students of color?
Yes, so obviously there's still that socio-economic issues that are happening there, where the BAME community or the Black and minority ethnic groups don't necessarily have the access to some resources. And research has actually shown that a lot of them don't take mathematics or physics, which is already a barrier into science. So, yeah, my knowledge is very limited in that, unfortunately. But if anybody would like to contribute, I'd happily pass the mic on.
Hello, I'm Padmaja. I am a budding counselor actually, but I have the privilege of working in STEM and design thinking for the last 10 years with a company called Kriya Learning. So when you talked about dipping your feet in the pool to understand how it is before you deep dive. So that's exactly what we do with schools pan-India, where we introduce children to various tools and technologies, which could be either hands-on tools, and we've structured it in such a way they test, understand the tool in totality. After they've understood the tool through boot camps, then there are guided projects where STEAM is not a discipline, it's a pedagogy there, where once they understand how to use the tool in a guided manner, then they are asked to deep dive with design thinking as a process or a framework to come up with open-ended problem statements which will help them to understand and integrate a lot of elements which they learn in the classroom and get an opportunity to apply it in the space various using all these tools and technologies, making this as a process where the focus is to develop 21st century skills like the thinking skills, digital skills, life and leadership skills. This is what I've been doing for the past 10 years with wonderful experiences which I get to see from children every day when they're working on all of these tools and technologies. Like she mentioned 3D design, there's robotics, there's coding, which is a abused buzzword these days. There's engineering, then there is artificial intelligence, various tools which are emerging tools in the future, which children should know as they grow up into a future which is more or less unpredictable, with the focus of being problem solvers. Problem solving is the skill set which is going to be very important in the future because of the unpredictability of the future. So that's the space I work in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of the left side of the room. The right side, the score is 2-0. Thank you. The score is about to be 2-1. Please go ahead. Oh, sure.
Thank you. I have a question. Thank you so much to all the panelists and to you for moderating the session. My question is more around how does one really synergize STEM with traditional arts in national curriculum classrooms, given that we have to sort of fight against the constraints of our curriculum and our syllabus. And this is, of course, a lot easier if you are running programs like the IB, which we are at school, but if I compare that to the national curriculum classroom like the ISC or the CBSE, how does one straddle both those requirements and sort of merge traditional arts and bring that into our classroom, if anybody has any thoughts?
This is a serious problem.
Yeah.
I went through the ICSE, ISC curriculum myself. I consider myself to be a scientist and an artist. I've had to do the art on the side, not at the expense of my schoolwork, but it has really energized me as a scientist every time I sit down with a sketchbook or with a oil on canvas. It energizes me as a scientist. And this is not an answer to your question. I don't know. There's a lot of pressure in. I see this in India. The curricular pressure, the exam pressure. It's very hard to balance these things. I did this in a very irresponsible way myself by doing this at the expense of doing well in my exams and my school studies. But I've encouraged students to really follow their passion, whether that passion fits nicely into the exam curriculum or not, because the exam curriculum is only a short-term thing. Passion is for life. And I know these are easy words to say. It's very difficult to convince students and parents of this. This is a huge problem. Exam pressure, curricular pressure, but it's very short-sighted. It is very, very short-sighted. I personally don't believe in sort of left brain, right brain thinking. I think there's a lot of parallels between science and art. The art I do and the science I do are both involve problem solving. You envision something. When you're going to do an art piece, you envision something, but the technical challenges of putting pencil to paper or oil to canvas lead to a different end product than you envision. And this is exactly how it is for science. You start a research project, you make measurements of the natural world, and you find that where you thought you were going is not exactly where you end up. They both involve creativity, they involve problem solving, they involve attention to detail, they involve hard work, tremendously hard work in both cases. So I don't see these as separate things, and I think one can inform the other, and I think parents especially, if they see that, they will be less focused on the specifics of the exam curriculum. I mean, I can go on and on this soapbox for another hour.
Rasha,
yeah.
Do you mind if I add to that, Rasha?
Yeah, please, Heather, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to hog the...
No, you could. I wanted to point out, there's a lot of research, at least in the physics realm, and this is what I'm most familiar with, but I think there's similar studies being done in other areas of STEM that look at how to best teach physics and how do we basically overcome things that make it difficult for students to absorb and internalize. And I think one of the things that helps with internalizing the concepts that we present in these courses is the art, right? There's a reason why storytelling is much more attractive than just straight lecturing. And so I think there is some power in recognizing that art can help us achieve those very strict standards. And yeah, I'm not sure about the flexibility in how you are able to deliver it in class, but just wanted to add that comment.
We're going to take the last question. We're being shooed out.
This I just want to share. So we are a school in Kutch, and I founded it because my heart used to go out to children with this struggle of life. And it's a 22-year-old school, and we've broken all barriers. We are a NEP prototype, and it's just that I'm balancing, struggling, and we managed to put children out there, and we work like what Heather shared, and all of you. Your sharing has helped me a lot, and this is the work I do. We follow the passion of the child, and we work according to the abilities and the development of the child. So it allows the child to understand what he wants to do, and he can follow his path. And we've broken barriers, and now luckily, we are getting recognition that this is how education should be. So thank you so much.